Take a look around. Like, life seems normal. Normal, right? And when I say normal, I just mean, people are going to work, filling up the grocery carts. They're even planning vacations. Normal. On the surface, it all looks fine. It looks good. Well, it doesn't look great, but it looks normal. But if you peek under the hood of our economy, the engine is flashing some serious bright red warning lights. All the data says that we should be worried. So why isn't anybody panicking? This isn't an accident. There are powerful psychological tricks and media narratives working overtime to keep you calm, cool, and collected as we march towards a potential crisis. The problem? The house is on fire. Let's go into the numbers. I know, it sounds boring, but stick with me, because the people in charge are counting on you to think this is too boring to notice. First up is our debt, our national debt. The U.S. national debt has rocketed to up over $37 trillion. To give you some perspective, our total debt is now bigger than our entire economy. As of mid-2025, it was projected to be around 119 to 123% of our GDP. Holy shit. Just think about that for a second. If your family owed more money than it made in an entire year, you'd be in full-blown crisis mode. I know I would. Damn. But for the country, it's just a number on a screen that keeps going up. For years, the cost to borrow money was practically zero, which created a kind of free lunch feeling, where the consequences seemed like a problem for another day. Newsflash, that day is here. The interest rates on our national debt have exploded. And as of August 2025, we're costing over $1 trillion a year. For the first time, the U.S. is on track to spend more money on interest payments than on our entire national defense budget. Well, hot damn, that's a lot of interest. That money could have gone to schools, roads, or healthcare, but instead it's just paying off the interest on loans that we've already taken out. And then you have inflation. While the headline number gets tossed around and seems to bounce up and down, your wallet tells the real story. The annual inflation rate was 2.9% for the 12 months that ended in August 2025. But let's peel back one layer. Food prices jumped 3.2% in that same period. A recent survey from the University of Michigan shows that 44% of people say high prices are eating at their personal finances, the highest that number has been in a year. For many, spending has been outpacing income, forcing people to dip into their savings just to keep up. You're feeling the squeeze. I know I am. Even if the official numbers are designed to sound mild. And on top of all that, economic growth is hitting a wall. GDP growth has slowed way down, with some estimates showing a decrease in the first quarter of 2025 after growing at 2.4% in 2024. The International Monetary Fund and other organizations have to downgrade their forecasts for U.S. growth, pointing to a whole lot of uncertainty. In fact, a lot of economists are now whispering the dreaded word, stagflation. It's the toxic cocktail of raising prices combined with a flat, stagnant economy. And they'll raise their prices because they always do. Nothing stops them. They're just greedy So the warnings are all there. A mountain of debt, sneaky inflation that chips away at our savings, and an economy that is shutting down. The dashboard is blinking red. The house is on fire. So why is nobody running for the exit? Where the hell is my back door? I'm going to run for an exit. Jeez. The agitation. Why? We're sleepwalking. So if the house is on fire, why is nobody grabbing a bucket? The answer is a carefully built system of psychological manipulation, media narratives, and pure intentional complexity. We aren't just missing the signs. We're being actively encouraged to look the other way. Let's break down the 3 big reasons why. Reason 1, the psychological traps. Our own brains are wired against us in moments like this. The biggest trap is something called normalcy bias. This is our brain's tendency to assume that because things have been okay in the past, they'll be okay in the future. We underestimate the chance of a real disaster because it's never happened to us before. It's the "it can't happen here" delusion. I was guilty of it for a while. I was guilty of that. In the beginning, we see a scary headline about the national debt, and we just look out the window, see our neighbors going shopping, and think, well, it can't be that bad. This bias puts a very dangerous delay in our reaction time, leaving us totally unprepared when things finally do go south. Then there's its sneaky partner, optimism bias. This is the little voice in our heads that tell us bad things happen to other people, not us. We hear about a slowing economy, but we think, my job is safe. Yeah, I thought mine was too. We see prices going up, but we think, I can just budget a little better. This bias is supercharged by something called psychological reactance, that stubborn impulse to push back when somebody tells you what to think or feel. When experts start screaming about a crisis, a part of our brain just wants to defy them and carry on like nothing's even wrong. This isn't a sign of stupidity. It's just how we're wired. We naturally seek comfort and hate anything that threatens our sense of control. Now mix normalcy bias and optimism bias together, and you have a public that is psychologically sedated, even as the ground beneath them is starting to crack. Reason 2, the media and political narrative. If our brains are already looking for an excuse to ignore the warnings, you can bet that the media and the politicians are more than happy to provide one. The modern media machine is built for distraction, not for clarity. And that's a really sad thing. Economic news usually comes in two unhelpful flavors, either a flood of random disconnected numbers or a hyper-partisan blame game. One month, inflation is up a fraction of a percent. The next is down a little. The stock market has a good day and then a bad one. This fire hose of information is overwhelming and almost never connects the dots. It doesn't draw a straight line from a $1 trillion spending bill passed years ago to the price of your milk today. By focusing on these tiny short-term blips, the huge structural problems like our national debt just fade into the background, seeming abstract and irrelevant. And it gets worse with political polarization. Every single piece of economic data is instantly twisted to fit a party's narrative. If the economy is struggling, well, it's the other guy's fault. If there's a sliver of good news, it's because of our party's brilliant policies. The conversation is never about honestly figuring out what's going on. It's about scoring cheap political points. This just makes people cynical and distrustful, and many just tune it out. Meanwhile, the message from the top is always the same. Everything is under control. No politician ever won an election by running on a platform of, get ready because hard times are coming. They have every reason to downplay risks and project total confidence, no matter what the data says. This creates a powerful, unified story of stability that completely contradicts the flashing red lights on the dashboard. Reason 3, the complexity shield. The final reason why we ignore reality might be the most cynical of all. The system is designed to be too confusing for you to understand. Terms like quantitative easing, fiscal deficits, and debt to GDP ratios were wrapped in layers of jargon on purpose. This complexity shield does two things. First, it makes you feel powerless. That's rude, shucks. If you can't even understand the problem, how are you ever going to be part of the solution? It makes you feel overwhelmed, so that you just give up and then just leave it to the experts, who are often the same people who benefit from keeping things exactly as they are. Bastards. Second, it allows the consequences of terrible policies to be kicked down the road for years, even decades. That free lunch era of low interest rates made it seem like the government can borrow and spend forever with no downside. The real pain from those decisions, in the form of higher inflation and crushing interest payments, is only really starting to hit us now. This huge delay between cause and effect makes it almost impossible for most people to connect the policy to their pain. It breaks the chain of accountability. This isn't a conspiracy theory. No, it's not. It's just a feature of how the system works. The complexity and the delayed consequences protect the people who make the decisions from public anger, while the rest of us are left to deal with the fallout years later, wondering what the hell happened. This whole system is counting on you being distracted, confused, and apathetic. It's counting on you to just keep scrolling. But the first step to protect yourself, well, is to refuse to play the game. It starts with deciding to understand the forces that are actually shaping your life, even when they're designed to be uncomfortable and confusing. Awareness is your armor. So what's the solution? Look, I'm not going to tell you to go buy gold and go hide in a bunker, although that would be kind of cool. The single most powerful thing that you can do right now is to simply become aware. That's it. That would do so much. The solution is to start questioning the official stories and look at the raw data for yourself. It's about understanding the psychological traps that are being used against you. The next time you get the urge to dismiss a warning because it sounds too scary, stop and ask yourself this. Is my optimum bias talking? Ask yourself. When you see politicians pointing fingers at each other over inflation, recognize that they're both dodging the real issue. Decades of reckless spending and borrowing from both sides. The point isn't to live in a state of constant fear, but to live with a clear-eyed view of reality. Awareness is the armor that protects you from the manipulation meant to keep you asleep at the wheel. Once you understand the game, you can't be played anymore. You can start making decisions for you and your family based on the real economic world, not the manufactured one they're trying to sell you. You stop sleepwalking and you start paying attention. And in the world that's coming, your attention might just be the most valuable thing you have. Now I want to hear from you. What's the biggest economic red flag that you see that nobody else seems to be paying attention to or ignoring? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. I really appreciate you. Hang in there. There's more coming.